Ooh, we're in a fancy table, the dragon table.
The Dragonborn.
I decided to show my support for Ukraine, guys, with my outfit tonight. I hope you are enjoying it.
I don't even know which of these assholes is you.
Yeah, me either.
Alright,
I'm the
you're
one
right
who
next to
looks
Ronan.
most Ukrainian.
You're wearing the same hat as this other guy on the opposite end of the table.
God,
Oh, the fluffy hat, that's you?
yeah, that's me. With the brown jacket suit thing.
In Soviet Russia, hat wears you.
I'll cut that part out.
I played no part in this.
Y'all some bitches.
Okay, let's start.
You
In
should leave that
5,
part in.
4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Two Matts, One Steve. I'm Matt number 1, the superior Matt. Joining me is Ronan, less superior Matt number 2 in Memphis. How are you, sir?
By less superior, I guess you mean clearly the superior one who doesn't always Magneto things.
Fair. And also from Memphis, but not living there, thankfully, is Steve.
Yeah, I made good choices about that. Fuck Memphis.
I second that.
So, Ronan, what are we talking about tonight?
Oh god.
Tonight we're going to talk about a movie. A movie that happens in space, and there's a hammer with, lightning, and there's thunder, and Russell Crowe shows up for some reason.
Steve, what are we talking about
Jesus
tonight?
Christ. We're talking about Thor, Love and Thunder, otherwise known as Thor Part 4.
The end.
Do you want me to... you asked me what were we talking about, and I
Yeah.
answered the question. Did
Yes,
you
you
want
did.
more?
I answered it just as well. All right?
Yeah, so we're going to talk, like Steve said, we're going to talk about Thor, Love and Thunder tonight, and I don't know if there's a ton to talk about with this movie, honestly. So I'm going to try to pad the running time of this episode a little bit by talking about Thor, the character of Thor within the MCU, not in the comic books, not anything like that. How into the character of Thor are you guys? Is he one of your favorite MCU characters? Is he just sort of, mid-tier? Ronan, where do you rank Thor in the pantheon of MCU characters?
Literally until Thor Ragnarok, Thor was a character I gave zero fucks about, because his two solo movies were, at that time, the shitty standouts of the MCU. Those were the two that were hands down the worst fucking ones. No one cared about them. And then Ragnarok comes out, and suddenly, oh, okay, now he has personality. Now he's fun, which carried over into, Infinity War and Endgame, and then got cranked up to 12 in Love and Thunder because nobody put the director on leash. Fucking Fritos in my throat.
Thank you for not muting at all during these coughs.
COVID?
Fritos. Or chili cheese Fritos.
Okay, so Steve, where are you at on the Thor character in the MCU?
Yeah, I think I'm mostly in the same boat. I didn't hate the first two Thor movies as much as anyone else, but they still weren't great by any means. He was kind of a fine B to C tier character, like Ronan said, until Ragnarok came out. Ragnarok was great, and stemming from that, I loved Thor in both Infinity War and Endgame. This movie dropped him back down the list a little bit.
So when did Ragnarok come out in relation to Endgame and Infinity War? That was before both of those movies?
Yeah, because
the stinger for Ragnarok
that's
is Thanos attacking.
Yes, Thanos shows up. Okay. Yeah, I think that the Thor character pre-Ragnarok, what I most remember him in is the original Avengers movie. I think there is some sort of standout moments in that original Avengers movie, and he's kind of always been played as, I want to say, the dude bro. He's a complete idiot. They never really portray Thor as the smart Avenger, right? Because they have Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, and they have all these great scientists. He's always just kind of played as like a buffoon sort of character, and I thought he always worked well as in an ensemble thing.
What is
but
happening here?
I don't know what's going on
No.
right now. People
No,
are going
I'm not going to join you too.
Yeah, I'm not either. So yeah, I mean, Thor. I guess if I'm ranking MCU characters, I mean, I think Thor's fine. I do think he's probably the funniest. The character comes off as the most humorous in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I think that's intentional. Because I do think Chris Hemsworth does have really good comedic timing for the most part. We might sort of.
I agree with that. Yeah.
I think this movie might have clouded that a little bit, but yeah, I think Thor's fine. Like, I have no problem with Thor at all. It seems like Thor, though, does sort of get the big pop moments. You know, I remember at the end of Infinity War, it's like Thor basically saves the day, right? In Wakanda, he comes down
Stormbreaker,
and boom, just murders all the monsters immediately, and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, Thor's here." So, of course, he doesn't go for the head, which he probably should have done initially. But yeah, Thor's all right. I don't hate Thor.
Yeah. I never hated him. When I was saying, like, you know, Dark World and like his first movie, those were the standout, like, you know, bad Marvel movies. Like, you know, that's, you know, in comparisonly speaking,
Iron Man 3
is great.
Yeah.
Yes.
Iron Man 3, the worst Marvel movie. Iron Man 3.
Oh, suck a dick. That movie is good.
What? No. I don't even think the first Thor movie is bad. I think the second Thor movie is real bad. But the first one is like,
Thor
okay, it's
1,
fine as an origin sort of story.
Yeah, the problem with Thor 1 is it's a very, like, by-the-numbers story, and Thor 2 is, you know, it is what it is. Iron Man 3 is just legitimately terrible.
I don't even like Iron Man 2. Honestly.
I mean, I don't really either, but it's not as bad as Iron Man 3.
Y'all motherfuckers is cray-cray.
Ronan, why do you like Iron Man 3 so much?
Because he makes bad choices.
Well, it's a good story. It's a good story. There's most of, like, for the bulk of the time, he's not like, you're seeing Tony Stark do cool, like, you know, experimenting, like, not experiment. You're seeing Tony Stark make cool gadgets, like, because his one Iron Man suit that he's wearing for the bulk of the movie doesn't work right, so he's having to make makeshift shit from going to the hardware store and stuff. So you're getting, like, oh, that's fun shit watching all that until, like, the end of the movie when, you know, all of the suits show up.
Yeah,
that is incorrect. The story of Iron Man 3 invalidates everything that happens before that, because it turns out he could have just gone and gotten a heart transplant at any time. Like, everything that happens up to this point, he never needed to be Iron Man. He never needed to have the thing in his chest. He could have just gone and gotten it fixed. And
the thing
in
his chest was not what
reasons.
made him Iron Man. He became Iron Man because he realized what his weapons were doing. The stuff in his chest had nothing to do with that.
That's great, but in Iron Man 2, the plot is the thing in his chest is killing him, and he wouldn't take it out. And it turns out he could have gone and taken it out at any time, and he didn't.
Because he's a super genius.
Ronan is speechless because he realizes that I'm correct.
Yeah, you just blew his mind. He's now going to look at that completely different than he did before. I will argue that Tony Stark is the greatest villain in the MCU because everything Tony Stark touches turns into an evil planet-destroying creation.
Well, there's no forgiving Ultron.
Well, that's part of his arc. It's like, they've flat out said that, like, yeah, he is the villain in Ultron, and like that's what sets him up for civil. That's the thing about Age of Ultron is, like, you know, the villain Ultron himself, like, that is, like, you know, like, that is a Thanos level threat, or it should have been, but instead they used him as a one-off. Tony Stark is the villain in that, but they downplay him specifically to set up Civil War, and that's the great sin of a lot of the Marvel movies is some of them purely exist not to tell their own story, but to set up the next one. And that can tie back into Love and Thunder, because there is a good 20-minute section in Love and Thunder that has no fucking story bearing within the movie. It is there purely to set up the stinger. That's all it's there for. It has no story bearing whatsoever. And that's just like a typical Marvel. That's been a long criticism of these Marvel movies for a while now. A lot of times they just set up the next one.
So is this a good point then to like actually talk about the story and what happens in this movie? We ready for that?
Steve.
We ready to take that leap?
We're ready.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Matt, take it away.
Okay,
Never mind, I'll do it.
Okay, go ahead.
So Gore is the last living follower of a god that gives no fucks about his followers, and the god tells him as much. Gore picks up the Necro Sword, kills the god, then he goes on a quest to get to the center of the universe where a
Wait a minute. You missed a very vital thing here. What happens to why is Gore so pissed off?
Well, that's
who dies at the very beginning?
Because his daughter, and I was going to get to that because
he was painting a picture, man.
Well,
and
I don't
interrupted
like the picture he was painting. Get to it quicker.
Nope, I'm done. I'm out. Matt, talk about the story.
Okay, so at the very beginning of this movie, so Gore is praying for rain, praying for water, and he doesn't get it. He comes across, and after his daughter dies, he comes across an oasis in the desert. Turns out there's a god there that is... I don't even know, it's kind of weird, because I don't think they really explain who the god is or what the god... just a god of these people, I guess. The god makes fun of him. The Necro Sword is there, because the god is just like, oh, we're happy, because we literally just killed... I don't know if they killed another version of somebody who is possessed like Gore, but this god is able to take out whoever who had the Necro Sword immediately before Christian Bale shows up. And then apparently, well, he doesn't. Christian Bale just takes the sword, stabs him, kills him, and decides, I'm going to go kill all gods. So then we cut to Thor with the Guardians of the Galaxy. And I will say up front that I would have much rather have seen that movie. I think of Thor just going on his adventures with the Guardian of the Galaxy. There's sort of a montage of, we can't have Fat Thor anymore. We got to show how he bulked back up. They go on various adventures. Thor kind of fucks everything up and decides, hey, I got to go off on my own adventures here because, he's hearing rumors from people that, hey, gods are dying. Gods are being killed off.
He leaves because they get a distress call from Lady Sif, who I thought for sure died in, Ragnarok. I was pretty sure she was dead in that movie. But, he gets a distress call from her, and that's why he's like, okay, yeah, I have to go it alone, because they have too many distress calls.
Yeah.
So the Guardians go off to, to go do Guardians 3, while Thor goes off to do this movie.
Yeah, and what's funny is the entire time, the opening scenes that's going to make it seem like it's going to be very, very serious. I mean, a little girl dies of dehydration, and, it's clear that Christian Bale is taking the film very seriously. I feel like he's in the wrong movie, honestly.
He read the role, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna be, a genuinely good, creepy villain. And, apparently only read his roles and didn't read, it's not his fault. It's not his fault that everyone else was playing it like clown shoes.
Well, I watched a YouTube video, which is very, very interesting. It had an interview with Christian Bale, and Christian Bale was saying there were tons of scenes of things that he did in this movie that were cut out. And that somehow Marvel mandated that this movie had to be less than 2 hours long, 2 hours or less or something like that, right around there. And Christian Bale was kind of like, yep, all the stuff that I did was just kind of cut out of the movie.
Yeah, I mean,
which
I
is
noticed
insane.
that as I was watching it, because I feel like if you added up all of the screen time that Gore got, it would be 11, 12 minutes. He is not in this movie that much at all, despite being the main villain. Like, he disappears for like a solid hour, it feels like.
And he's the most memorable part of the movie. I'd argue he's the best part of the movie. And they Darth Mauled him. They Darth Mauled him, you know.
Yeah.
Give him very little screen time. He's an awesome villain. And then, of course, spoiler alert, they kill him off at the end, so we're not going to see Gore ever again. But yeah, so Thor decides to go help New Asgard on Earth, and turns out Jane Foster, who is dying of cancer, has gone there, and Mjolnir comes together to sort of protect her, turns her into the mighty Thor when she picks it up. She is worthy. So, of course, that makes Thor confused that Jane is now a Thor, just like him, and I guess we have an hour and a half of wacky hijinks of Stormbreaker being jealous of Mjolnir, and let's run that joke in the ground over and over and over and over again. Some CG shadow monsters get knocked around. There's some more choky jokes, and eventually Gore steals a bunch of Asgardian children in order.
He actually does that very early on.
Yeah.
See, if I was doing the synopsis, I would be done by now, and we would be talking about
well,
the
I mean,
movie.
that's why he steals the children. Thor goes to hit him or kill him because they're trying to get to eternity, which I did like. I think was cool because that's a very great callback to the actual comic books. So basically, Gore's obsession is to steal these Asgardian children so that Thor shows up with Stormbreaker, because Stormbreaker can open the Bifrost directly to eternity, and eternity, when you meet him, he grants one wish to you, and of course everyone's like, Gore is going to wish for all of the gods to die because he's been going around murdering all of them, and so that's kind of like the main plot of the story. And I don't know, Steve, what did you think?
I kind of thought of it the same way I thought of it as like Ash versus Evil Dead. Like, it went too far into the realm of comedy. Like, this is a series like Evil Dead. It started out very serious, and by the end has basically no seriousness whatsoever. It's almost pure comedy that just happens to have monsters in it. I felt the same way about this movie. I feel like Ragnarok Thor to end of Infinity War Thor is like peak Thor for me, and this went too far into goofy shenanigans. So it is... I mean, it's better than those first two Thor movies, but it's not good, and it's not even close to the quality of Ragnarok.
Ronan?
Yeah, I also want to the main overwhelming issue in this movie, as Steve just kind of hinted at, is the tone. It can't, like, we have Christian Bale being playing a genuinely good villain in this movie. He has good creepy moments when he's scaring the kids and everything, followed by like madcap comedy with that it just doesn't work out. And I am now fucking sick of Korg. He was a fun character for like 5-minute bits in Ragnarok. He has like 2 minutes or so in Endgame, and now suddenly, because I guess the director wanted to give himself like an extra paycheck by being like, an actor in this movie too, he decides to give the silly side character a main fucking role in this movie that he doesn't need. I wanted this character to fucking, when Zeus hits him with the lightning bolt, I was so fucking pleased. I was like, oh shit, that's ballsy, we're killing him off.
Yeah,
hell
that'd be
yes,
real ballsy.
He was annoying as fuck. Please be dead. And then he pulls his face out. I'm like, God damn it. Fuck.
Apparently, only the Rock people's face are alive. Hey, guys.
But I would also say another issue with this movie is that the stakes don't really matter. Gore isn't out to destroy the cosmos or anything like. He's got a genuine grievance because he was genuinely wronged by the gods, because spoiler, gods are kind of full of themselves.
I mean, he was wronged by a god, to be fair.
The point being is, like, when you get to the city with Zeus, it's like with all the other gods, they're still very much along the lines of, yeah, who cares, and yeah, who got the most sacrifices this week. They're pretty that sets up the bulk of them as needing to go in my book. Hashtag Gore was right, but That's the thing. It's like he's not trying to shoot a giant laser beam into the sky that will send down, like that will call down the armies or do whatever. He just wants to kill all the gods. That's
He
not.
wants
That's
to
almost.
just Thanos snap the gods away, and that's
But,
it,
like,
and
yeah.
leave the rest of the world alone.
He's very Kratos-like. He wants to
Well,
just
but
kill all the gods out of revenge.
I was about to actually mention God of War. God of War sets up when Kratos finally goes on his god-killing spree in God of War 3. That sets up that for every god he kills, that has direct consequences that negatively impact the planet itself. Like when you kill Poseidon, that fucks up the oceans. When you do all this other stuff, it does bad things. And like this movie doesn't set up that the gods need to be here. If it did that, that would like give the stakes. That would raise the stakes. As it stands, it's like the only stake that is in this movie is, oh shit, we may not, like, oh shit, Thor could die if this plan proceeds. So for me, the stakes were very low because there is no like, there really is no big overwhelming threat to this. It's like he doesn't even really want to kill the kids. The kids are there purely to get Stormbreaker, which.
But they will die because they are god children.
But and I'm also kind of when he like Christian Bale, he sees like these things that show him that he needs Stormbreaker to get into eternity. But Stormbreaker at this point has only existed for about a year, if that. So how was it written down in these ancient hieroglyphs that you need this axe that has only existed for about a year?
I thought he saw the symbol that gets burned into the ground like every time the Bifrost Bridge is open. I don't remember. I guess I don't remember the movie saying specifically he needed Stormbreaker so much as Stormbreaker was the only thing that people knew of at the time that could open the Bifrost.
That could be. I'm pretty sure that there were some hieroglyphs or something like that, like carved in the stone that showed that axe. But maybe he added that, like while he was like formulating his plan, kind of. That could be like that might be it, where he knew that Bifrost, like that Stormbreaker opened the Bifrost. So that could you might be right there. I don't know. This isn't the type of movie that I'm going to go out and rewatch because I loved it so much.
I do like your point, Ronan, about this compared to something like God of War. The MCU is starting to introduce gods, right? I mean, we just saw a bunch of that in Moon Knight. But I think you're right. Like they haven't established that these gods mean really anything at all. Like it's almost like I don't know if you've read Neil Gaiman's American Gods or seen the TV series or anything like that. It's like all these gods sort of still exist. They can still kind of do some stuff if they want to, but if one of them were to die, it has no direct impact on like you or I's lives. Like who gives a shit? And I think again, who cares? They're gonna he's gonna murder all these gods. Well, how is that going to impact the MCU going forward? We don't know. It's not been established, like why there are no stakes. But you could make the argument, counterpoint, that there are no stakes in any of these movies. We all know what's going to happen. The good guys are ultimately going to win. The good guys are going to prevent the bad thing from happening. And if the bad thing does happen, the good guys are just going to ultimately reverse it anyway, so that it didn't happen. So, and that's the thing with all comic book movies. Like,
that's the
are
thing
there
with
stakes
all
at all?
movies. Like, that's the thing with all movies. The amount of movies that actually end on like a bummer note, where not only does the villain succeed, but there is no fucking way it can ever be undone. Like, outside of, like, maybe some John Carpenter movies, like, there aren't that many movies out there. Proportionately speaking, the bulk of all movies follow exactly what you just said. You know that the bad guy's plot is going to be thwarted. But, like, it's more or less, like, thematically, like, stakes raised and stuff like that. Like, yes, I know that, like, it's going to work out in the long run, because like 90% of all movies do.
Well, do you think that that's now an inherent problem? Like we've gone through Infinity War and Endgame, right? And that built to this giant sort of climactic universal sort of thing. How do you even top that? Like, they bring Galactus in eventually, right? We all know they're going to bring Galactus in. What? He's just going to eat Earth. He's just going to eat Earth. But we know the multiverse is all going to return to what it was before. There's not going to be. I mean, they're going to beat Kang. The timeline is going to go back to where it is. So I just don't know if there's any stakes at all left in these comic book movies. There's only so many stories you can keep one-upping for the danger level unless you start killing characters and keeping them dead.
What you're
Right? That's where
referring
the
to-
stakes come from.
What you're referring to outside of, except for like the killing characters and keeping them dead, is more or less a phenomenon that happens in the common term for it is power creep. It's it's hard to believe that after a threat like Thanos, that something else, another believable Thanos level threat, can occur.
Unless you have watched any of Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, I was going to mention like Dragon Ball because the power creep happens all the time in Dragon Ball. But at the very least, in the manga, they came up with an interesting way to get around that with like the last villain, Moro. But that's a totally different rant. But totally different. But that's essentially the thing that's happening right now with the Marvel movies. It's like power creep. Who can believably become a threat that could match a Thanos level event? And I guess Kang could, if only because it's going to fuck up multiverse and time and all that. But they haven't set this up very well. But in some fairness, again, when the Marvel movies first started off with Phase 1, those original movies like Captain America, Iron Man, and all those did was meant to set up Avengers, and then Avengers set up Thanos for the next 8 or 9 years. So they haven't really introduced the next big thing. We think it's Kang, but is it actually going to be him, or are they just going to get rid of him in the next Avenger movie?
Yeah, I can't.
We don't know.
They're introducing Kang in Ant-Man 3, and to me that's such a weird movie to introduce such a major villain. Like Ant-Man, that's the lowest grossing of all of the Marvel franchises. It makes me feel like, why is he?
By introducing, is it he's going to show up in the Stinger, or he's the main villain?
He's the main villain. Allegedly, he's the main villain of Ant-Man and Quantumania, or whatever.
That would tell me that he's not the overall baddie for the next 8 or 9 years. If Ant-Man's just going to beat him.
Yeah, I don't know what his role in Loki Season 2 is going to be, because it's clear they're going to have to interact with Kang at that point, because Loki sees the statue of him.
What if Marvel's listening and, Ant-Man 3, Ant-Man stops Kang's plot, but Kang lives to fight another day?
Yeah, it's just such a weird movie to introduce such a major villain in, Well, where did Thanos first show up? Was that Avengers?
The end of the first Avengers, and then he wasn't seen again until Guardians of the Galaxy. But at least in that, he's not even the main baddie in that. He's just ordering around Ronan.
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just, and maybe they'll do something. Phase 4 has been a very strange phase, because there's movies that I love in it. Obviously, Spider-Man No Way Home was awesome. I liked Shang-Chi a lot. That's a very, very cool film. I like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. For generally speaking, I like the TV shows, but they've conditioned us to be anticipating a big overarching story, right? So if you look at sort of old school television series, right, you have all kinds of individual one-off adventures, but the show will pepper in the overarching storyline throughout the whole thing, whether it's the first season of Flash with Reverse Flash and stuff like that. You start seeing it build. I don't feel like this phase has built to anything. How many movies in are we? How many television series? And we still have no idea, what this is leading to.
So you say we've been conditioned to expect it to be leading to something. Would you feel differently if Kevin Feige had come out at the beginning of whatever Phase 4 was and says, hey, we're just going to reset a little bit, do some introductions, don't go into this looking for a bunch of connections?
Yeah,
would that
I
make
think
you
that
feel
would have
differently?
been. I think so, because
I am keeping that in the back of my mind, because again, when this whole thing started up, when all the MCU stuff started, all that was just to build up to Avengers, because nobody even knew if this concept was going to actually work. And then it did, and then off to the races they went. So it started up slow initially, and since they've more or less rebooted it, I guess, like in finger quotes, rebooted it. Now they have to reintroduce all these characters and get us used to them so they can start, like, guest appearing in other movies and TV shows and shit. But they still haven't set anything up, like big villain-wise.
Yeah, and it's... I mean, well, who is the only villain, right? It's just Kang, right? Kang and Scarlet Witch, I guess.
That's the assumption, is that it's Kang. But again, like, if he's the main villain for Ant-Man and Wasp, that tells me he isn't. If, like, low C-tier characters are going to beat him. Or like, I guess maybe not beat him, maybe just kind of... It might be that perhaps Kang, maybe it's an over-exaggeration, and it's similar to what it was in Guardians of the Galaxy, where who they actually end up fighting, that villain is operating under the orders of Kang. And that way you have Kang in the background introduced, so we learn that, oh, he's a big, strong guy, but he's not... That way he doesn't get beat by Ant-Man.
Well, I'm trying to think...
I think they could get away with Ant-Man beating Kang if, like, the stinger for Ant-Man is, like, the introduction of, like, the Council of Kangs to show that they're basically infinite and, there's a master plan in place and, Ant-Man was meant to do what he did.
That could work, yeah.
Yeah, that could work. That could work, because I'm trying to think of all of the villains in Phase 4, whether it's the television series or the movies. Aren't they all dead except Kang, technically? Like, Mandarin dies at the end of Shang-Chi. The Celestial dies at the end of Eternals, although there is still a Celestial that's like, hey, well, I'll come back to judge you at some point in the future. What else do we have? Scarlet Witch is dead at the end of Doctor Strange. All of the
Spider-Man's villains
all Spider-Man's villains are
dead or gone.
Yeah. They were sent back to in time or whatever. Who the fuck knows what's going to happen there?
Yeah, Gore's dead in this. Like, Kang is literally the only villain in Phase 4 that is still technically alive. And he technically died in the first season of Loki. But he's like, hey, there's an infinite number of me, so good luck now. I feel like Kang is the only villain that they've actually set up something for. It's just they're setting up in a weird way. A Disney Plus TV series in Ant-Man 3. It's just odd. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what other movie you put him in, I guess.
Have they announced, like, what the end of Phase 4 is? Like, is Ant-Man or is the Captain Marvel sequel the end? Like, do we know when this is stopping?
I don't think they've announced necessarily the end of it, although Kevin Feige came out and he said within the next couple months there's going to be clarification on where this is all going, and they decided that they're going to have a big, giant thing at San Diego Comic-Con this year. So everyone is assuming that they're going to...
coming out?
Fantastic
Black
Four.
Panther 2. I mean, I'm thinking, like, what's coming out, like, soon where they could potentially introduce a new villain, like, through the rest of the year?
Namor. They're introducing Namor in Black Panther 2.
Right, I can't see him being... I can see him being a villain. I can't see him being, like, a Thanos threat villain. Isn't there a Captain Marvel sequel coming out?
There's that. There's there's that. There's the Ant-Man movie. I know they have a Blade movie down the line, and there's also Guardians 3. But I don't know when those
Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
I don't know when those movies are supposed to come out, though.
And I don't know what...
Out of all those movies, I feel like the one most likely to introduce a new big bag would be Guardians. Like, maybe the Guardians go and investigate whatever Shang-Chi's rings were pinging off of in the universe.
Well, this is supposed to be allegedly...
Adam Warlock's supposed to be in it, too, isn't he?
Yeah, this is supposed to be the end of this team of Guardians of the Galaxy as well. So I think that you're going to see either deaths, or because I know Dave Bautista, he's like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be Drax.
He was very upset that Disney fired James. He was very upset that Disney fired James Gunn, because apparently him and Gunn became really good friends, and he was not happy that they just got rid of him because a fucking troll brought up something he said like 12 years ago.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of the Guardians, did I miss Gamora in this movie? Or, was she with the Guardians?
No, she's still gone.
Weird.
Well, they're trying to find her, right? That was the end of Endgame. Is Thor? And them's like he's got her up on the screen because remember she's evil now. Like it's the evil old version.
Yeah,
of Gamora.
I couldn't remember if because she was friendly with Nebula, so I couldn't remember if she went with them or not.
The good one. Did the good one die? Because the
bad
Gamora
bad
died,
one at the end of
'cause-
Endgame is it ran off. She was about to kill him, but then she ran off. The one from the past.
Yeah, like the good Nebula is still around. The bad Nebula was killed, and Gamora.
She died.
Is-
She dies in Endgame. The good one dies, right?
Yeah,
And
the
it's
good,
just a
the
bad
good one
that's still
dies,
running
and
around.
I don't even know if we could call the other one the bad one because even by the timeline standards,
she
like
turns.
she was just about like even if like they hadn't interfered with the timeline, that was the point where she was she was already had it in her mind that she was going to try and hide and escape from Thanos.
Oh,
so she,
motherfucker! Damn it! I'm
so
gonna
and
lose
more,
this hand.
so kind of I guess more talking because this is supposed to be a Thor: Love and Thunder thing.
Yeah.
We know that the movie had tone problems, and I mentioned like Korg. I would also like to mention that there was one running gag in this movie that never failed to make me laugh every time it popped up, and I don't know why, but it was those fucking screaming goats every time they randomly pop up and just disappear somewhere. They start screaming, and every time it happened. That was perfect comedic timing. I laughed every time those goats made the. Ah!
It seems to be very
time.
polarizing. People either love the screaming goats or they hate the screaming goats. I felt it was a little much. Like the first time it popped up, it was funny, but I'm like, okay, they're just doing this
I
over
think it
and
would
over
have
and
been
over.
like they should have introduced the screaming goats for the gag, and then Thor eats them. Like get them out of the movie. The rest of the movie.
I
You know what
appreciate
took me out of the movie more than anything?
What's that?
Like how shitty Christian Bale looked compared to all the rest of this movie. You've got a CG rock monster in it for the first 45 minutes of it. They just dabbed some gray paint on Christian Bale and called it good. You're telling me they couldn't CGI some Twilight doodly bops on his head like he has in the comics? He was just Christian Bale in gray face.
I bet Christian Bale would have never made this movie had he been put CG'd up, because Christian Bale is the kind of guy who's like, look, you want me I'm a fucking great actor, you're gonna see my face on screen here, you're not gonna make me turn into a Twi'lek.
Well, that's stupid, because as I've said before, I want my comic book movie characters to look how they do in the comic book. That includes their ridiculous looks and outfits.
I thought he looked fine. I had no problem with him.
Appreciated the look. It was a less is more thing. I was fine with it.
It was a
fine.
less is stupid thing.
He looked very Marilyn Manson-esque.
Well, I mean, I know you're a Manson fan, or were at some point, so so that ought to be good for you.
I had no problem with it. I had no problem with it.
See, now, Steve, I might be getting Gore confused with somebody else, but I could have swore that Gore was the one in the comics that actually took Thor's arm, because Thor currently only has one arm, and he's got this weird metal robot arm thing. I haven't
read an actual comic in over a decade, so I don't know.
Okay,
yeah, I don't know.
Maybe to kind of get around that, and maybe they just replaced Thor with Sif, because Sif gets her arm cut off.
Yeah,
so maybe they're like,
sure.
oh look, Gore is just as threatening as the comics, but to Sif and not Thor.
They're also because I know that I forget the comic arc, but there was some point where Thor was fighting Nick Fury, and Nick Fury whispers something into Thor's ear, and it fucking mentally breaks him, and then he becomes unworthy to wield Mjolnir, and that's how Jane Foster gets the hammer.
That's correct.
And
what I believe what Nick Fury
was
tells
Gore
Thor
was right.
Gore was right.
Yeah, and
So where's God? When's the last time we saw Nick Fury? Was it at the end of Endgame, Tony Stark's funeral?
No, he's
he
at
was
the
at
end
the
of
end
WandaVision, right? No, not WandaVision.
No. He's at the end of Far From Home.
Yeah, because he's up in
that's
space.
right, that's
Yeah, they mention him in WandaVision.
So yeah, there's a wasted use of Gore, because that could have been an interesting plot point. Is Gore Gore makes Thor once again unworthy of the hammer?
Gore feels like, I mean, even though I thought Christian Bale's performance was awesome, it feels like Gore should have been a multi-movie sort of threat. Like they should have built him up. Like you could have had this film be the Jane Foster's Mighty Thor sort of storyline, and they could be fighting somebody else, but Gore sort of appears, and you see sort of him in the shadows in the background doing all these things, and then the next Thor movie would be where he really showcases and steps forth to do that, because to me, like, the main problem with this movie to me was, well, number one, you guys know I'm not a huge comedy guy, but I do like Thor Ragnarok quite a bit. And I rewatched Thor Ragnarok, and I think you guys are a little off base. I don't think that thing was anywhere near like a laugh a minute. There's a lot of like serious. No. There's a lot of serious shit. I would argue the vast majority of Thor Ragnarok is not comedic at all. There are definitely moments of comedy.
That was our point. Is that Ragnarok? That's our point. Ragnarok strikes the balance between goofy shit and like seriousness.
Yeah,
it holds that tone because even like Hela is not like as powerful as Hela is. She's still kind of like, you know, weird and good. Everyone holds that tone, which is that's what makes Gore not work. Is Gore does not fit the tone. He is way too serious for all the other goofy shit in this movie. Whereas Hela was also kind of goofy. So everything worked in Ragnarok. Where in this it doesn't work.
Well, it also felt to me like when I watched Ragnarok again, the jokes in that and the comedy in that were, how do I describe it? Because I'm not a comedy person, so it's hard for me to describe. But it wasn't so over the top and ridiculous.
It was more deadpan.
Yeah, you know, it was. You know, you got a little bit of Jeff Goldblum being Jeff Goldblum, which is always great, right? But he wasn't like ridiculously over the top, and it felt to me like in this one, Taika Waititi, number one, I didn't think the jokes landed. There was very little, if any, laughing in the theater that I was in when we were watching this. There were a couple jokes that I laughed at, but I feel like this one was just trying so hard to be like, oh, everybody loved funny Thor in Ragnarok, so I'm just going to focus on funny Thor and ramp it up to 11. And it's almost like Taika Waititi didn't really... I don't know. He didn't read the room, so to speak, when he was making this. Because you have, like you said, Steve, you have all this serious shit. Like, Jane is dying of cancer. Gore is, you know, his daughter's dying. He's murdering gods. He's doing all this.
Kidnapped
and then you have
children.
Yeah, then you have wacky, goofy Chris Hemsworth running around cracking jokes and doing all this. And it's like, it just doesn't quite work.
Destroys those people like their ancient temple made out of glass at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, God of Destruction.
This movie would have been better. I don't even know if we've really like talked about just how bad all of that God City shit is. But this movie would have been fantastic if they had cut all of the shit with God City and Zeus and replaced that with apparently all of the shit of Gore that they cut out. Like, God City was just, hey, let's make a goofy side quest that doesn't serve any purpose. They didn't need that. They're just like, oh, Zeus has this weapon that we need. Why?
No, they don't.
I don't fucking know.
Like,
they just decide they want the weapon.
No, yeah, you're right. What I was saying earlier on, like when I was talking about Age of Ultron and everything, like, and how that is there to set up another movie, like everything with God City in this, and like, yeah, I agree, it's all bad, and you could cut it all out, and the movie would still work. Like, oh, you might wonder what's this weird Thunderbolt weapon, but it really doesn't. You could just brush that off, or hypothetically write it out of the script entirely. No, it's there purely to set up the Hercules stinger. That's all it's there for. It's there to set up the next movie. It's that shitty Marvel thing where they will derail the storyline of a movie specifically to set something else up. Like the biggest flaw of Marvel in general, of the MCU in general. That's what the God City thing was.
I don't know, because you could have done the God City stuff, but not made it 20 minutes long.
Yeah,
and still
Thor could have said, all right, I need, this Thunderbolt weapon. Go and talk to Zeus, and it's just like, all right, you can have the Thunderbolt if you take it from me, and Thor wins the fight, and they move on with the story. There did not need to be this grand 20-minute scene of just stupidity.
And like I said, like that also only further encourages me to think that, again, hashtag Gore was right. Because, like, you get Russell Crowe up there doing his weird, like, Italian Greek accent. which that technically is proper for Zeus, but like, so he's up there, like, and he's like, so today we will be like deciding who got the most human sacrifices this week, who, and we're going to be having the orgies, and it's like it's. All of this just goes to show that, yeah, Gore's right. They don't care about any of their followers. Like, they care so little that they moved away from their respective planets to move here to, like, the city of Rick or whatever, whatever they want to call this fucking thing. But again, it's there purely so Hercules can show up at the end credits, so we know Hercules will be in, like, another movie. That's what it's there for.
Well, it's like setting up, because the mid-credit stinger or whatever sets up that, because Zeus is not dead, right?
Yeah.
He's still alive somehow, and it's just sort of set up like, is the next Thor movie just going to be all of the gods versus Thor? Like, all of the gods are going to try to kill Thor now? Because obviously Zeus and Hercules are the big bads in the next movie. It's just like, do we care about all this god shit? Do we care about any of it?
I care about Hercules. I fucking love Marvel Comics' goofy-ass version of Hercules, and I'm fully on board with him appearing in the MCU. What I assume is going to happen, though, is the next Thor movie will be Thor versus Hercules, but then they realize they're buddies and team up and stop a common threat. Yeah, I expect that to be another by-the-numbers movie.
Yeah, I can write it in my fucking sleep at this point. But, and like, we also forgot, like, Gore's kid comes back and gets, like, eternity powers or whatever the fuck happened there.
Yeah, I wasn't clear on why she suddenly had powers.
I didn't understand that either.
Yeah, so
the end of the movie is basically, Gore gets to eternity like he wants, and he gets one wish from eternity, and he's like, I'm going to kill all of the gods. And then Thor and Jane Foster, who is dying, basically say, choose love. Instead of using your wish to kill people, why don't you use your wish to bring something back? And so Gore wishes his daughter back to life, with the caveat that Thor will be responsible for her, and so Thor basically adopts Gore's kid, and they go off basically continuing their work that began with the Guardians. But now Gore's daughter has powers.
Celestial powers or something?
Yeah, for reasons that aren't really explained in the movie. She just has powers now.
So, now, in fairness, she could be some kind of important, relatively recent comic book character that they're bringing in that I have no fucking clue who she is. Like, that's fair. That's a fair thing to point out. It's like, maybe she's a set-up character and comic nerds know who she was and got super excited. I have no clue.
Now, curious, tell me what the actual thing with eternity was, because I know it was, if you get to eternity, he grants you a wish, whatever you want.
That's correct.
Was it just the first person that gets to eternity, or is it just anyone now who gets to eternity, he's going to grant him a wish? Because
I thought
Thor
it was the
and
first
Jane
person.
Foster were all there, so no one has ever seen eternity before. That's what this movie's trying to say. No one has ever seen eternity,
except for maybe like the gods.
I thought at God City they said something like the gods like actively try to keep people away from there.
Yeah,
okay, I remember something like that.
Yeah, I wager a bet people like Zeus or before Odin died. I imagine like your top tier gods. Also, it's important to sort of note
Holy shit, a straight flush. First time I've seen one of those.
This guy is kicking our ass. This guy is like dominating.
But like, Guardians of the Galaxy 2 also kind of sets up the fact that there's like a god tier list, because Kurt Russell is saying that he's like a god with like a small g instead of like a capital G god. So there's also a tier listing for them in power as far as power level. But so I can totally believe that like your Zeuses and your Odins know what eternity is, know how to get to eternity, and have possibly even spoken to eternity before, but just tried their best to keep small meatbags like us away.
Wouldn't they
from
get
them.
a wish though?
I guess if they wanted.
Yeah, I don't know that they've ever been there. So I thought for sure the rule was eternity will grant a wish to the first person that gets there.
That's more or less what it is. Yeah.
I don't know. Overall, I mean, I didn't hate this movie. I will say the things that I liked about it. I thought the whole Jane Foster stuff was good. I liked the Jane Foster stuff. I liked the last act of the movie quite a bit. I liked the whole sequence when Thor like grants the power of Thor to all the children and stuff, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is like a kind of
a really fun scene.
Yeah, it's like this is a feel good
playing
thing
too. That all of that was working. That was good.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff in the movie, but I think it was. People have such sky-high expectations of Taika Waititi. If you look on the internet, it's like he's untouchable. He does no wrong at any point in time. He's incredible. He did the best episodes of Mandalorian, the funniest ones, and everything. This one, I just felt was not there. Like he almost just went a little too far.
It could have worked with a consistent tone. Like it either needed to be an action movie with gore, or an action comedy with someone else.
Somebody needed to come in and say, like, I'm basically, I don't have any other way to. Somebody needed to reel him in, to tell him, like, no, this isn't working. The tone is like there's too much whiplash. Like this needed like a producer, and I have no clue how Feige let this happen, because I thought he had the de facto control over all the shit, which I guess means he saw this and was like, oh yeah, this is great.
Well, what's interesting...
You go from scenes of someone getting chemotherapy because they have terminal cancer, and then it cuts to, like, screaming goats.
They were never not funny.
So they were not funny after the first time they showed up.
I looked up the running time of this movie. The running time was 1 hour and 59 minutes. So take 10 minutes off of that for the end credits, and you're looking at an hour and 50-minute movie. And so I'm curious is if they put out an extended version of this, because if Christian Bale's correct, he's like, yeah, I did all kinds of other stuff that didn't end up in this movie. If they did an extended cut of this, let's say it was your normal 2.5 hour long Marvel movie, and the tone is kind of fixed. I mean, do you think... Because Taika Waititi came out, he's like, I don't believe in director's cuts and stuff like that. So, I mean, I don't know if he's just towing the company line and saying, like, hey, look, dude, you want to make a Star Wars movie, you need to shut the fuck up and just say, hey, we cut your movie down and that's how it's going to go. Because that's a big mystery right now on the internet, is why was this decreed by Marvel that this had to be under 2 hours long? It's strange, right? When every Marvel movie is like fucking 2.5, 3 hours long, why did this have to be cut down? Was the rest of the stuff bad too? And they were like, yikes, chop it.
That you might be onto something with that thought there. Maybe that's what it was. Like, a cost cutting. It's like maybe that was the control of, like, reining him in and being like, yeah, take out 30 minutes of this bullshit.
Like there's 30 minutes more of the bullshit, and they're like, no, we're cutting it out.
They told him to cut the movie down because it doesn't work, and he cut out all the good stuff and left in all of his bullshit.
I mean, that's a pro gamer move.
I will say for the record, I'm still a big fan of Taika Waititi. I think his stuff is really good. There is good stuff in this movie.
Yeah,
it's just it's not a terrible movie. I didn't hate the movie. I didn't come out of it saying, "Oh my god, that was just atrocious." It's a one and done for me. I cannot envision myself ever watching this again. I mean, are either of you ever going to watch this again?
Probably.
Nope.
I don't think so. I mean, I rewatch Ragnarok, like, I don't want to say all the time, but more than I rewatch most other Marvel movies. And this one's not going to cut it. Steve, I think, said something in the Discord about how it's like it's a train wreck or like a bad movie, but it's still enjoyable or something like that. Was more.
Yeah, I still feel like I was entertained throughout the entire movie. But if you ask me why, I don't know that I could tell you. Like, I recognize that this was a shit film, but I still enjoyed it. No, the screaming. This movie would be an A+ without the screaming goats.
Well, if you had to give a letter grade to this movie, Steve, what would you grade this movie?
I don't know. C. It's pretty. It's not. No, you know what? I'm going to be harsh on it. I'm going to say a D. Like, this
a
is
D?
The more I
Wow.
think, the more I think about it, the less I like it.
Okay. Ronan, how about you? What letter grade would you give this?
I'd go C minus, definitely. Yeah. I'm not quite as harsh as like a D, but yeah, this movie, like for all the reasons we've explained, it's not good. Like again, on that kind of gradients curve, just because something isn't, it's not either awesome or terrible. There are several layers in between. And a bad movie can have qualities in it that make you enjoy it. But yeah, I'm like this. Yeah, see, it doesn't work. It's got too many things working against it.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that as well. I'd go C. There's still a lot of stuff I liked in it. Other than that stupid Zeus stuff. I mean, it just went on and on and on. And for me, it was like you guys know I'm not a big comedy guy. Like, I just don't like comedies. But I like Taika Waititi's comedy. Almost always his comedy lands for me, and I find it really funny. But for whatever reason, I feel like there was 25 to 30 minutes of this movie straight through where I'm just sitting here thinking, like, this is the worst comedy I've ever seen Taika Waititi write. Like, this is just bad. Like nobody's laughing. It's kind of obnoxious. The film meanders a little bit. It's just, but then again, it's like the last act I thought was really cool. I liked how it all turned out with Gore, because he wasn't this really evil character. You could argue that Gore was not a bad guy at all. And he sort of,
Gore was right.
Yeah, you can sort of show that by his final action at the end. Like, he doesn't actually go through with it. I'm trying to think, like, who does Gore kill in this movie? Does he kill anybody in this movie other than that god at the very beginning?
Yeah, he kills other gods.
Yeah.
It happens off screen.
Well,
okay,
yeah,
you see the bodies.
Yeah, when Thor goes to help Lady Sif and she's lost her arm, there's like some giant Godzilla kaiju god monster,
the nicest god you'll ever meet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Cryogonon or whatever it was, and it's like the nicest god. Yeah, exactly. So he does kill gods, but yeah, they don't. It like you could have added another layer of tension and suspense if you had done the God of War thing and shown that these gods do, even if they're pricks, they you can't just kill them because an element or some life force is tied to them.
Now that I think about it, this makes the movie even worse, because what was the point of Gore going around killing any gods in the first place? Why wasn't he just from the very beginning trying to get Stormbreaker so he could go talk to Eternity and just wish all the gods out of existence? Like, what was the point of running around the galaxy killing them at all?
I think to get Thor's attention or something.
Yeah, because Thor had no idea that Gore was a thing until Sif contacted him.
Yeah, but Gore knew who Thor was. Right? Like, how did number one, it's like...
It's hard to say that. Maybe he figured it out when he was fighting Sith and was like, oh shit, the Asgardians are still alive. I thought we lost them all with Asgard. Maybe, but he had to find out about Stormbreaker. We don't have that information. I have no clue.
Yeah, because obviously Gore knows about the Bifrost. He knows about Stormbreaker. He had to...
Are you telling me there are plot holes in this film?
I think there are, sir. Yes. I think there are some massive plot holes.
It's almost like 30 minutes of exposition was cut out to make just so that way we could keep a worthless God City 20-minute section in the movie that would allow us to get a Hercules stinger. It's almost like Marvel kneecapped this movie to set up another movie. Oh, isn't that weird?
One other thing I'll mention. So the very end, spoiler alert, the after credits stinger is Jane Foster, because she dies at the end of this. She is now in Valhalla. And to me, they're gonna kill off Thor at some point in time, and he's gonna go live the rest of his life, with the love of his life in Valhalla. Do you guys think that they will just keep Chris Hemsworth as Thor? He's like pretty much the only OG Avenger that's kind of left, other than Hulk, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you think that they will kill him in some upcoming arc, or they're just going to keep making Thor movies until Chris Hemsworth gets too old to play it?
No, I think they'll replace him, because I feel like all of the original Avengers, with the exception of Black Widow because she died, they're passing the torch in some way. Like Iron Man is going to have Iron Heart, and if Iron Heart ends up bombing, War Machine is still there. She-Hulk's about to be a thing. Falcon is now Captain America. I think eventually, like, all of the OG Avengers are just going to get phased out. Personally, I think
they have a Black Widow too,
Yeah.
because
It's Natasha's sister.
it's her sister.
I haven't seen Black Widow, so I guess thanks for
that's
spoiling that for
it's
me,
in the
guys.
Hawkeye show.
She's in
they said.
Hawkeye.
I didn't watch Hawkeye either. But
Hawkeye,
Hawkeye,
dude, do
I
your
assume
prep and research. God damn it.
I assume that the Hawkeye show was also a passing of the torch story of some sort.
Yeah, that was also
Yeah,
the one
Kate
that
Bishop.
that was also the one that pissed everybody off, because Kingpin shows up and just throws Kate Bishop, literally just throws her around for a while.
Yeah,
Anyways,
she beats-
as I was saying, they're all getting replaced. I think they could kill Thor off, which I like. It's kill Thor in Thor 5. Like, I like Chris Hemsworth in this role, but I got a straight neat. But I'm ready for something else. I think either like Hercules, who again I fucking love the Marvel version of Hercules, could easily just fill the role that Thor currently occupies. But what I would prefer to see is Beta Ray Bill getting introduced.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
wasn't Thor's outfit, because like to me the outfit Thor gives himself when he comes to New Valhalla, that looks a lot like Beta Ray Bill's outfit. Like, am I
Yeah,
off
it
there?
does. It has
Yeah.
more gold in it.
Yeah, it looks really gold and blue, and I thought that was kind of Beta Ray's thing.
Maybe Thor dies and Beta Ray Bill, it becomes the new Thor because he takes over for.
that
for
works.
us.
Do it.
Stormbreaker is also Beta Ray's weapon.
That's true. Yeah, and what's going to happen with this little girl, Gore's daughter, going forward in the MCU? I mean, Thor's, I guess he has to protect her now. That's his whole mission and whatnot. So is this little girl going to be in every single Thor movie going forward? Does anyone want to see that? I don't know if anyone wants to see it. I mean, I like how the story plays out. I think it's good for the story. But man, I don't really want this little girl running around the movies constantly.
That depends entirely on how she is written, and if they don't make her just like, default too strong for her own good. Like they need to build up that power level before they just kind of suddenly have her like beat the end villain in some movie.
Yeah.
If they do that in the next movie, they're instantly going to lose it, and you can already hear the nerds calling her a Mary Sue.
I think that I think they'll kill Thor when the next big sort of event occurs. The next sort of end game sort of thing. I think that's when they'll end up killing Thor, and then someone will take over. Because I think this movie just showing the audience that Jane Foster can pick up Mjolnir and there can be the mighty Thor. That's just cueing the audience up to like, we can replace Chris Hemsworth. It's coming. Prepare yourselves. He can't stay in this role forever. So yeah, and I don't know, of all the new characters introduced in Phase 4, have any of them grabbed your sort of like have captivated you or grabbed your attention like the original Avengers? Your Iron Man, your Captain America, Black Widow, and stuff. Like any of these characters that people really, really care about?
I would have to so far say that's a hard no, because like I give so little fucks for Shang-Chi that I still haven't seen it, and I can watch it on Disney Plus right now if I want
It's really good.
It is really good.
But I'm just no part of like. It's the same sort of thing like where I say like, if the trailer doesn't catch me, I don't watch it anymore. I'm just, like, nothing about that movie seemed interesting, and the best I've heard people say is the fight scenes are really good. That's not enough to get me to watch it.
I like the story of it. Like, I love the Mandarin
story
in that movie.
Yeah, the story is very, in my opinion, unique within the MCU. It's very otherworldly.
Yeah. It doesn't really look like anything else that the MCU has done.
But in terms of like the question of has anybody else captured my attention, in that aspect, no. The Eternals, fuck no. I could be talked into like Shang-Chi, but then that's not even me like knocking it. That's just like someone could talk me into it, or if I go to visit somebody it's playing, I'll watch it. You wouldn't get me to watch Eternals. That movie just looked like straight up dog shit. You ain't gonna get that to happen. Fuck that noise. American Chavez, who was also introduced. I mean, maybe like we didn't get enough of her character in Doctor Strange for me to care one way or the other.
I feel like Doctor Strange is carrying the MCU right now. Because
I agree.
Universally,
I think multiverse incursion shit is going to be the next big thing.
One could hope, but so like her, maybe like the Black Widow sister. I forget her name.
Elena Belova. She's cool. I will say that. I like that character. But she can't carry a franchise.
Oh yeah, on the one hand, it's like she's at the very least different from like Black Widow. She has a different personality, which is good. But at the same time, it's like that's that kind of character that comes across to me as trying too hard to be like cool and spunky. It's like you're trying too hard. But like, so that would be a no. Kate Bishop wasn't that interesting. We have no fucking clue about Ironheart because that movie hasn't come out yet. So far, yeah, none of these new characters that they're setting up are really, at least for me. I'll know. We'll pass this around the table, maybe. At least for me, yeah, that's a no. In terms of like
really
any of these
Moon
characters
Knight.
Interesting.
I'll say I liked Moon Knight quite a bit.
I forgot all about that.
I'm interested.
Yeah, me too.
I'm interested in Moon Knight. If we see more Moon Knight, we're not really seeing a lot of.
Yeah,
Moon
there's
Knight.
no guarantee we get any more Moon Knight.
Yeah, I'm actually interested, and this might tee up for a future Two Mats One Steve. I'm going to watch the Miss Marvel show.
I forgot about that one too.
Yeah, and the reason why. Is not because I was like, I generally didn't feel any interest to watch this show because I don't know anything about this character. It's basically a little kid. Doesn't seem like it's something that would interest me whatsoever. But the revelation that happened in the final episode of this, that she's a mutant, and we actually have our first named mutant in the MCU, and so I feel like now I'm going to watch this to sort of see, okay, well, what is this all about? How? Because I guess they thought that they were teeing her up to be an Inhuman. I don't know in the show how she gets her powers or how they're triggered or anything like that. I guess it's like a mystery.
In the comics, it's a Terrigen Miss.
Right.
So if it was comics, it would have been an Inhuman.
Right, but at the end of this one, the guy comes up and literally he goes, "You've got a mutation," and you hear da-na-na-na-na-na in the background of the soundtrack when he says that, and her eyes are wide. So it's like, okay, she's a mutant. She's the first mutant in the MCU. I want to kind of watch the show. Number one, I'm kind of interested now in this character because I've seen a lot of positive reaction from the show online, which kind of shocked me because this feels like the kind of show that the internet would just shit all over. And
Mary
so
Sue, or insert all the bashing.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to give the show a shot. I know nothing about this character. I don't know if I'll identify or care about this character, but the mutant angle, I kind of want to see it. I want to see how they're setting this up. Yeah, so maybe in the future we'll do a Two Mats One Steve on that if you guys end up watching it.
I'll watch it. I will say that this is a total cop out. If you ask me, the fully brand new characters of Phase 4, who I find like to be the most interesting, I'm with Ronan. None of them really catch my interest. Again, this is a cop out, but the alternate Loki that's in the Loki show is probably my pick. Because technically, it's not the same Loki that we followed through phases 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's true. That's
good.
I mean,
right.
I can get behind that.
Yeah,
because Tom Hiddleston's so damn charming.
Yeah. So tying that back into Thor real quick, not before we let Matt answer, are any of these characters catching his interest? But we do kind of forget about the fact that okay, so we have Thor who does not know that there is a Loki running around. Has this Loki gotten? Because I still haven't seen the show. Has this new Loki made his way into? I don't even know.
Because Loki is dead in Thor's timeline. So in Endgame, right? Because that's when Loki they go
he gets
back
the
in time.
Tesseract, yeah.
Yeah, they go back in time. That Loki takes the Tesseract, and that's what it's that Loki that's in season 1 of Loki. And so he's gone. He's out of the main timeline of the MCU entirely. So all Thor knows is
But
that
can he
Loki
get
is
back?
dead.
Like, yeah, that was kind of what I was thinking. Is like, do you think that, like, he will somehow make his way back into that timeline?
I don't know. I'm trying to remember the rules that the TVA set up because it's like a split universe, right, or a reality or something. They kind of show like a straight line is the main MCU timeline, and then in the Loki television show, every time somebody deviates from whatever Kang has planned, it creates a branching alternate timeline that's parallel with the main MCU timeline, but the TVA's job is to cut that alternate timeline off. So basically they kill the deviant. They call them deviants. So like let's say you, Ronan, are walking down the street and you're heading to your job, but for whatever reason one day you decide, you know what, I'm going to go over to McDonald's, I'm hungry, and you walk across the street. Well, if Kang had determined that you were supposed to walk to your job that day, the TVA would show up and prune this alternate version of you who then branched off and did a separate thing to keep one main continuous Marvel timeline as decreed by Kang. This is how it needs to go.
This is almost exactly bit per bit, like back to a Dragon Ball thing. There was a Dragon Ball side thing called like Superhero, like Dragon Ball. But essentially, there is a time force in Dragon Ball that's supposed to go out and make sure the timeline goes the way it does, and stop all these alternate variations, and make sure that like Frieza dies at such and such point. Like, that is literally the exact same thing.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, I've never seen Dragon Ball, so I don't know. I'll take your word for it.
And Loki is awesome. Ronan, you should watch it.
Yeah, but the thing with the Loki show and sort of where it goes is, Kang. Well, I won't spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, but there's at the end of season 1 of Loki, basically the main timeline is shot to hell, and there are now crazy,
So Matt, he's not going to Ronan. He's not going to spoil it for you, but here's the ending.
Here's the ending. He fucks up the timeline.
It goes to shit.
He's more like really that action kind of is really more or less responsible for every bad thing, like in Doctor Strange or Spider-Man, because the Time Force should have come in to stop all that shit from happening in the first fucking place, but they can't because Loki ass fucked the timeline.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Okay. That's one way of putting it.
Pretty much. It's all Loki's fault. All of it.
All right, so Matt, tell us about any of these characters that are interesting to you.
Well, I did. I said Moon Knight. I really like Moon Knight. Shang-Chi, I really like that character quite a bit. Who else? Who else new has been introduced? That's pretty much it right now, I think.
Yeah,
I mean the characters.
I don't think any of these characters. Again, there's a bunch of new Phase 4 stuff I haven't watched. I don't think any of these characters are bad. I just also can't see any of them being the face of the franchise the way like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man was for so long.
Yeah, I don't think any of them are unsalvageable. Like, for example, getting back to American Chavez, we don't know enough about her from her like limited role in Doctor Strange for me to say, yeah, fuck that character. She sucks. I don't know enough about her. I'm just not like because of that. I can't say I'm interested. But it could be salvaged later on.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know. To sum up, we don't know where the MCU is going. I mean, mutants, obviously.
Neither does Disney.
Mutants are coming. And have they mentioned anything about what's going on with the new Captain Marvel movie? Like, who is the villain in that? Do we know?
I haven't heard anything about. I remember hearing a while ago, like a rumor that Tom Holland was supposed to pop up in that movie somehow, and for some limited Captain Marvel Spider-Man crossover thing. I have no clue if that's true. Maybe
Yeah.
it was true 3 years ago and is not true now.
Yeah, he's technically signed for one more movie, according to, the trades who have insider knowledge of the contract, because they haven't actually renegotiated a contract with them for future, like another Spider-Man trilogy or anything like that. Hopefully they get that done, but he is still technically under contract for one more appearance in the MCU. So,
Yeah, so
I'm looking at the wiki for the Marvels, which is, I guess, is Captain Marvel 2. And I thought, for some reason, I thought this movie was coming out soon, but we're a whole year away, so it's going to be a while. I'm looking through the cast to see.
Miss Marvel's in it too, right?
Yeah, like none of these. I don't know who some of these characters are, but none of these people are jumping out at me as like a supervillain identity. Jude Law is going to be back in it, according to this cast. There's a bunch of people, a bunch of characters with the last name Khan, and I don't recognize any of them.
And see, and that's the thing. Like Captain Marvel is.
Oh wait, no, this is Ms. Marvel's family, I think.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Captain Marvel's one of those characters that's just sort of god tier power level. So, what kind of villain do you bring against Captain Marvel? I mean, she's already been shown basically taking Thanos on when he had the Infinity Gauntlet.
He needed the Power Stone specifically to be able to, smack her away.
Yeah, it's like, so what kind of villain would you have in that movie that Captain Marvel couldn't just immediately take out? I don't know.
Yeah, there's a reason why Superman movies are so hard to make, and that's because how do you come up with a legitimate threat to Superman? And Captain Marvel has been set up to be like the strongest current character in the MCU. It's like it's her, at least in a one-on-one fight sort of situation currently. And so yeah, how do you make a Superman character like Captain Marvel interesting?
And also, Captain Marvel doesn't really have any weakness that they've shown, right? At least like Superman, you're like, okay, everyone knows Superman's weakness is kryptonite.
Yeah,
His weakness is magic, right? Shazam and stuff like that. But what is Captain Marvel's weakness? I don't think they've really shown any weakness whatsoever. She just gets punched really hard, and I guess inertia takes her far away from the fight for a while before she comes back in. I don't know. I don't really know what her and I like Brie Larson in the role. I thought the first Captain Marvel movie was just kind of a boring origin story, but again, so was Thor. So was I'd argue the first Iron Man movie was kind of a boring origin story too. That'd be something interesting to talk about. Which of the Marvel villains, the Marvel heroes, best overall franchise within the overall MCU franchise? I would say, without a doubt, it's Captain America. I think the Captain America movies are all awesome, and I would say that his films are the best representations of everything in the MCU.
Yeah, I've said before that as far as what I think is like the best made Marvel movie, objectively speaking, the best, in all the way around. I have said before that it is Winter Soldier. That's the one I would pick for that.
Is Winter Soldier better than No Way Home? Because what are the two big franchises here that we're talking about, right? Captain America and Spider-Man. I would not put Iron Man, the 3 Iron Man films, up there, because Iron Man 3 sucks, and Iron Man 2 sucks as well. The Thor movies definitely don't go up there.
There's only one Hulk movie.
There's only one Hulk movie. There's one Black Widow movie. Are there any other sort of franchises?
For me, it's either... I know the first Captain America is nothing special, but it's at least good. So it's either
I like the first one a lot.
there's more like Captain. How many Captain America movies are there? Are there three?
Three, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, do we have to hit three for us to count? Because I want to say, yeah, Captain America, Guardians, or Spider-Man are the most
Guardians,
quality franchises.
Yeah. Well, I say Winter Soldier, I would say, is objectively the best, one. Although, subjectively, just my own opinion of what works for me, that's Guardians 2 by a huge margin. That's still, to me, my favorite out of all of these movies, with the only exception being Spider-Man. But
I like Guardians 2 a lot better than the first Guardians.
Yeah, I saw that movie 8 times in a theater.
Probably because of Kurt Russell, though. I have a huge man crush on him, and I will forever.
As you should.
Yeah, as one does.
So I'm looking at a list of MCU movies. Black Panther 2 is the last thing coming out this year. So I thought we had more movies on the docket for 2022, but apparently
it's coming
not.
out this year?
Yeah, it comes out in November. They don't even have a trailer for it yet.
Yeah, that's what made me think. That's what made me
November 11th.
I thought they would have a trailer for it before Thor, but they didn't. It's weird. They must be saving it for Comic-Con or something as a big reveal.
Probably. Yeah.
And that's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. How do they show that Chadwick Boseman has passed away? How do they address that? It's going to be a very delicate balance because he was such a beloved character in his minimal appearances, right?
Yeah, because he nailed it. Yeah, he just nailed it. He wasn't
so
there long, but he nailed it.
Yeah, so it'd be curious. I hope what they do with Black Panther 2 is that they actually, because the Marvel movies have a very huge platform, right? We just saw in Thor that they addressed someone having cancer and someone passing away from cancer. I hope that it turns out that Wakanda, with all their technology and stuff, it was no, I mean, he just died of cancer. We couldn't save him. And you sort of show people that it doesn't matter how big of a superhero you are, you can still be sort of cut down by any normal thing, and fuck cancer, it sucks. I hope they leave. I hope it's not he died off screen, Namor killed him. I would not want that. I don't know. How do you guys want them to play that angle out?
Honestly, whenever a famous actor dies, even when they're known for their name is really, really attached to a specific role, I have always been on team recast. I would recast Black Panther. I would have recasted Princess Leia. So I feel like whatever they do, I'm going to wish that I just had a new Black Panther.
Or new T'Challa.
Yeah, a new T'Challa, specifically the same character. But yeah, I guess I mean, it would feel kind of powerful if they had T'Challa die via cancer. At the same time, I don't know, that feels weird for a world of superpowered people to not be able to overcome that. I remember in the X-Men, when the legacy virus was first introduced in the comics, originally, they were never going to cure the legacy virus because they wanted it to be synonymous with AIDS, and so they wanted this incurable virus to be around to reflect the real world. And then people were like, "That's stupid. There's 37 people in the Marvel comics that can cure anything."
Yeah, it's kind of hard to do. I'm also on board with Matt in the extent that I do enjoy that they've set up that Wakanda has this place that super advanced, a gunshot wound here isn't even that big a deal. I haven't seen the original one in a little bit, but I recall there was that agent guy who got shot, and for them there was no real issue at all to fix him up because oh yeah, we're super advanced here. We can this bullet, this is nothing. This was out it goes. You're all good. Here's some candy. Or something like that, as I recall. But yeah, it would be nice if they could say, "Yep, we just haven't cracked that. We just haven't cracked the nut that is cancer. It sucks. It's still here. It's here too. Yeah, that's a bad one."
Yeah, and it would also make sense within the world of the MCU, because then if they could just beat cancer, why would they just not share that technology with the entire world?
Yeah, why
Cure
did
all
Jane
cancer everywhere?
Why didn't Jane go there for like a rigorous session of cancer treatment?
Yeah,
Since
Thor
Wakanda
could have just
opened up
taken
its
her to
border.
Wakanda.
Yeah, since
fixed her right
they
up.
opened up their borders, like at the end of the Black Panther movie. So, like the thing I'm kind of curious about is how will there be like what's the backlash more or less, like. Not so much will there be a backlash because the actress that they're basically she's going to replace and be the new Black Panther is also a big anti-vaxxer, and had she had her way and Chadwick Boseman not died, she would have very much been on set unvaccinated, putting his life in mortal danger, and they still decided to do it anyway and cast her. So I'm curious if that narrative's going to get thrown around at all when the movie publicity starts rolling into effect. I'm curious about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how that's all going to play out, because you hear all this stuff in the media, and like, what is true, what's not true? Like, I don't know. Like, I've seen reports saying no, she was vaccinated, she's not an anti-vaxxer, and then I've seen other reports saying no, she's an anti-vaxxer. They're keeping her, away from set, and might shut down production, might replace. It's like, who the fuck knows? Like, I don't have any clue as to what's going to happen. But, quick question. Is Namor going to be better than Aquaman?
What do you mean by better than Aquaman? You're
Just a much cooler character. Somebody you're like, okay, I want to watch a fucking Namor movie now.
Cooler than Jason Momoa Aquaman. Well,
Yes.
I never saw the Aquaman movie because I looked at it and was like, okay, they've given up and now they're just actively going to rip off the Marvel formula. I don't care. I never saw it. I was like, I've already seen Marvel movies. I can write this movie in my sleep. So I never saw it. But I would say probably not, because Namor wasn't like, the cool, like, I got long hair Lord of the Sea character. Namor was like an uptight, serious guy in the comics.
He's also a mutant.
Mutant. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm curious if they're going to state that he is a mutant in this movie, since they've already basically said Miss Marvel's a mutant. I don't know, Steve. What do you think? How excited are you for Namor?
I think I would like to see him as a villain in someone else's movie. I don't know that I would be excited.
Well, he's supposed to be the
like
villain in Black Panther 2.
Well, that's what I want.
That's what he said.
Like I don't know that I could justify like a standalone Namor movie. Namor's fine. Like, I'm curious to see what a live action version of him becomes, but yeah, I feel like I'm not excited for Namor himself.
Okay, that's fair. That's all I got. Do you guys have anything else you want to chat about on this episode of Two Mats One Steve?
Let's just tease that potentially the next episode's going to be Resident Evil. Just because if we say that now, that means Ronan has to watch it.
Oh, do I? Or will I just watch some YouTuber, review the whole show and then bullshit it along from there?
No, you're gonna watch it.
I've only seen the first. I will stick it out. I will watch the Resident Evil show on Netflix. I will say that first episode, I'm not on board yet.
I'm on 3 episodes, and I can't say the show is amazing, but I will agree that first episode was real rough. But I think every episode, again, I'm only 3 episodes in, I think every episode so far has been better than the previous.
Okay, so you're saying it's getting better.
It's getting better, and I haven't watched it, but Jeff posted some links in the Discord where people are saying that the last 2 episodes specifically are something special. So
okay,
I'm going to stick with it.
Well, I thought with when he was saying something special, I thought the thing was to skip them because they were bad, or did I misread that?
I thought it was the opposite. I thought the article, and again, we're talking about shit in our private Discord, so no one's gonna know what we're talking about. But I thought what Jeff was pointing out was that you can skip everything else and just watch the last 2 episodes because the last 2 episodes are really good.
Okay. Well, as long as we're building something, because man, that first episode. I mean, I liked the giant caterpillar. That was
Yeah,
cool.
I was watching that and I was just sort of like, oh, well, okay, they're going with fast zombies. I'm already not pleased by this, but it's only been like 2 minutes. I can still stick this out. And then giant caterpillar was like, oh, fuck yes, we're going to T-virus infected monsters. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm back on board.
That is something that, without telling you specifically what happens, that carries on. We are not just getting zombies and lickers, which I feel like is what all of the other Resident Evil movies really focus on. Like, we are getting a bunch of varied monsters, not just zombies and lickers and zombie adjacent things.
But but then the show, but it goes on, and then it goes on to very explicitly tell us that not only does the T virus not kill you, it's so these people are alive and kicking. The virus just rewrites your brain. You still have a heartbeat, you still have a pulse, you're alive, and their great hope is that the virus weakens and people start to regain some humanity. But it's also not even a bioweapon, at least by that first episode's measure. It's not even a bioweapon. So
I've read that this is somehow meant to be part of the game's world, and I am not seeing how that works.
There's no fucking way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like from what I'm reading, the intent seems to be that this happens alongside the games, and I am not seeing how that's possible. So I'm hoping that the show is going to surprise me.
In terms of the old live action movies, that first movie, I remember when that came out, the discussion between myself, Frank, Ryan, I think even I mentioned this with Steve before, way back in the long ago, is there's a hypothetical chance that the Hive could exist within the universe that the video games have created. It doesn't really I could see that being there, and that current adventure happening at the same time as the Arkley Mountain incident and all that shit. It doesn't, for later movies go on to show that, but it's something that could happen. This movie, at least from the first episode, it's I see no fucking way. This isn't even a Resident Evil show. I've said it before. This is just a generic wasteland story, end of the world kind of Mad Maxy, monsters and crazy things running around out there that they probably didn't have any faith in, so they were like, you know what, we can buy the Resident Evil a title for $2 million or whatever, and slap it onto this and do a rewrite and make it into Resident Evil and turn it into clickbait. That's my working theory right now, because it has nothing to do.
I disagree with Ronan on that one, but hey, let's save that for the next episode, where Ronan will definitely have watched the entire series.
Well, Ronan will have definitely watched the YouTuber explain to me how the show works, so I don't have to.
Okay, with
All right,
that, everybody...
we got anything else?
Nothing else. We're going to go all in on the next hand. That's the last thing to do here.
Yes.
Damn it.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to fold here. I want to save as much money as I can save. I want to take out Mr. 146K, who's busted me out twice tonight.
The other guy has more.
That's true.
Yeah, the guy who looks like Sam Jackson over there. In the,
God, we are the weak ones at this table. Holy crap.
I had over 100K at one point, and I went all in on a stupid hand. And now I'm going to go all in on another stupid hand.
This never ends well for me. I don't know why I keep doing this.
You do it because that's the rule. The rule is, Ronan, you go all in on your last hand and you watch the Resident Evil series on Netflix. Those are the rules. You just have to abide by them.
Oh, good. We have another new guy. Let's just scare him. All right, all in blind, next hand.
All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
We're gonna make you watch some shitty anime, Matt. We're gonna
No.
not even a good one. Not even a good one like Cowboy Bebop. I'm gonna find something really shitty and make you watch
take
that.
anime. I cannot take.
So you get to not watch something, but I can't cheat with Resident Evil. I see how this goes.
Yes, live action is different than awful, horrible animation. Okay, so call. Boom!
Make
Look
you
at this,
watch-
ladies and gentlemen.
All right, come
Tap
on,
back
people.
over, folks, because you want to watch this. We're going all in.
Come on, play with this guy. Yeah,
Play.
he's
Yeah,
in.
we got him to play.
I mean, this is chump change for these two.
It
It
is.
is.
It is. Come on.
He's thinking
Come on,
about
dude.
it.
Come
Come
on, do
on.
it. Do it. Aw. Okay, 5-2. 2 queen.
2 10.
Come on. Oh my
I'm gonna
god,
get-
we all got shit.
Oh no!
I'm
I
going to
need
get
twos.
We all have
Twos.
garbage.
I need twos.
Okay, I
Give
got
me
my
a 2.
7. I got a 7. That didn't help me.
10.
I think Matt's gonna win.
No. The other guy's gonna win. We all
I
lost.
can't tell who won.
I can't tell who won either.
I got a pair.
Ronan
Ronan
won.
wins.
No, it's a split pot.
How much did I get? Did I get anything at all?
All right, well, I've got 64,000. That finally worked out for me. Fuck you two assholes.
Boo.
I'm going to take these 64,000 chips. I'm going to have someone else watch that show that pretends to be Resident Evil and tell me about it. Give me cliff notes so I can follow along. Be like, yes, I totally saw, flip through my notes, scene 36. Yes, I watched that.
Oh, I got a loot case here. I'm going to open this up real quick for the
I'm
viewers.
going to fold and
Hold on. Let me hit
exit.
upgrade here. Are you sure you want to upgrade your loot case to a rare loot case? Upgraded loot cases do not award duplicate items or nicknames. Price 20,000 chips. Why not? Open up this rare one. Ooh, it's blue. Okay, here we go. Oh, can I upgrade it again? Ooh, I can upgrade it to an epic loot case. Costs 35,000. Let's do it.
You earned loot case.
Look at this. Ooh, okay. Can
I
I
don't
can
support
upgrade it
gambling in
again?
my
Let's see
poker
how far
game.
does this go. Legendary loot case for 90,000 chips. Okay, well, that's too rich for my blood. Let's go ahead and open up this epic loot case. It's probably gonna be garbage.
So you will spend your chips on a stupid ass loot case here, but back when we were playing Fortnite, you sat on your fucking V-Bucks and only bought the stupid Stormtrooper outfit.
Yep, exactly. Now, I will tell you what will get me to get back into Fortnite when they put a Jack Burton character out. That's what I'm going to get back into Fortnite. I'm going to have to get the damn skin of Jack Burton.
I forgot to log in when they had the Ghostbuster skin, because I was like, I have to buy this skin, and I just forgot to log in, so now it's part of the random loot pool.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a great night.